Hello and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be building the app that you see in front of you. It's simple, easy to use, cross-platform, and it's powered by a whole bunch of cool tech like Vue, Node, and Google Cloud Platform. First thing you should do when starting an app is to make some designs in Photoshop or Sketch or XD. XD is free. And doing this is kind of like making an English mind map, except it actually works. You get a clearer picture of what needs to be done before starting, and it helps with the foundation of the app. So as you can see here, I just threw together some mock-ups, added some effects and a little bit of transitions just to see what it's going to look like, and that's it. So now let's get to the technology that I'm using, front end and back end. First up, we have the database. I'm using Firestore because it's real-time, it's cheap, and it's easy to use. I'll show you what real-time means later on. After that, I need somewhere to run my code. Instead of running a traditional web server that's like a virtual machine that you pay $3 or $4 a month for, I'm going to use something called serverless. Well, Cloud Functions. Serverless is just the general philosophy, and you can use it on Google Cloud Platform or AWS, whatever you're using. It's just the idea that you have code that runs when a user shows up at your site or makes a request to your code. You don't need to worry about scaling up or down. It just automatically does that for you. Downsides are cold start times where you have to wait for the server to spin up, but you don't need to worry about that now. There are ways around it. Ultimately, it's cheap, it's easy to use, and it automatically scales up, so you don't have to worry about things. And that's pretty much it as far as the backend goes. There's a little bit more. For instance, I'm using Google Cloud Storage to store audio files and image files, and I'm also using Google Text-to-Speech to run my audio transcription. And of course, all of this is running on Google Cloud Platform. Please sponsor me. The client is just Vue and a material-based kind of like CSS theme I made a while ago. Literally, there's basically nothing to it. And now that we've selected everything we need to use, we can start development.
One hour later.
I didn't really record any development, and I don't have like a time lapse of programming, so this is what it looks like. I know you're not supposed to do this, but the entire app is basically in 2 different files. There they are. That's it. Rather than go through line by line and show you what's going on, I'm just going to do the big points like text-to-speech and image uploading and some of the dragging and dropping, which is basically all done by libraries. First off, let's start with the text-to-speech. Of course, this is going to be hard because if centering things in CSS is difficult, imagine trying to get multiple browsers to record text and send that to a server. For example, the sample rate has to be a certain number, and browsers and computers assume different sample rates depending on the microphone, which is fine because the API has a sample rate option inside of the function to allow you to set the sample rate of the microphone and outputted recorded audio. But they ignore that. So instead, I spent 5 hours trying to figure out how to resample audio until eventually I found a Stack Overflow question that I copied and pasted. Now, of course, this didn't work, so I had to keep trying and trying and trying until I finally found it. And here's what it looked like. All you do is press the button and it instantly starts recording. Testing some speech, text-to-speech stuff. What am I even Once you're saying? done, it sends it off to Node. Node saves it as a file and sends it to Google. Google parses that and then sends it back to Node. Node writes that to a note, and that's it. And thanks to Firestore being real-time, your note instantly shows up between all devices. And speaking of real-time, now's a good time to actually show you what that means and how it works. So here I have 2 different browser windows open with the same account, and you'll notice when I press that plus button, it instantly updates on the other window, which is really cool, and this is all powered by Firestore. All I have to do on the client side is just subscribe to a certain query, and then I instantly get push notifications down from Firestore to the client inside of a JavaScript function, which then I can just patch the Vue data store, and that's it. Vue adds the item and CSS does the transitions. There's really not much. And the cool thing is that this works for pretty much every single type of data in the app. And there's only a few. For instance, we have those groups, those bubbles, and then within each bubble we just hold notes. Within those notes we have blocks. Blocks are audio, text, and images. In fact, everything is just set up through these snapshot listeners. Whenever I want to look for something, I just set up a snapshot listener. Firestore sends the data down and automatically listens for the updates. So it's really elegant, super easy to use, and the security is really easy to set up. In this case, every single group, that is bubbles, and notes had an owner field on them. The owner is just an ID. Using Firestore security rules, I'm able to check if that user happens to be logged in, and if their user ID is equal to that note. This way we can block any requests trying to access other notes that aren't theirs. Now for updating and creating notes, I have a special cloud function that I mentioned earlier that just validates and lets the users update stuff. And that's really it. It's a really high quality feature and it makes your app feel really professional, and it's super duper easy to set up. The only downside is your reads and writes that you have to pay for. As long as you build your app properly and don't waste reads and writes, you'll be fine. Now, of course, there's still a lot of stuff I have to do before release, like cleaning up those disgusting colors, and fix all the broken interaction, like touchscreen zooming and a better UI, and also testing it on other browsers, like I haven't even tested on Safari yet, which always manages to break pretty much everything. And before I get it out on the internet, I have to use user account upgrades and brute force blocking of login attempts. I have to find a good domain. I have to wait a week for the Webpack bundle to compile. And I have to figure out how I'm going to trick people into using this crappy app. All of that and more in the next video where I show my brilliant marketing strategy while trying not to get banned. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Goodbye!